So, the next person up, as we talk about leadership and we talk about the human side of leadership, is Atul Khosla. He's the founder of Aide Humanité Lay. He's a leadership guru. It's based in Chicago. It's a global organization helping leaders lead with humanity. Lead with humanity in the digital age that we are hurtling into, in this world in which we are understanding how do we navigate ambiguity, how do we keep our humanity? How do we do that from the right place? He delivers personalized leadership programs rooted in reflection and values. He's helped executives redefine direction in complex, high-pressure situations. Previously, the Senior VP, Global Head of Talent for Mondelez International. Ladies and gentlemen, Atul Khosla.
Good morning. Fabulous. I'm delighted to be here today. I am a practitioner and a student of leadership, and I'm flying in from Chicago. So a little bit jet lagged, but I think I'm good enough for the next 30 minutes to keep you engaged. So the topic which I'm going to talk about today is leading with humanity. One message I want you to carry from this conversation today is why it is critical to be a good human being before you become an effective leader. A bit about my own journey. I did about 30 years of corporate career in human resources in Asia Pacific, Europe, and last about 10 years in the US. And about 4 years back, I decided to sidestep and follow my passion in leadership development and launched Leadership at Humanity. So what do we do at Leadership at Humanity? It is a movement which is dedicated to reignite humanity in business leadership. So we run programs, interventions with large global corporations. We work with individual standalone leaders, helping them to reset, recharge, and envision a new future going forward. We also run some initiatives, which are the non-commercial part of Leadership at Humanity. There's a global mentoring program, which provides access and guidance to those individuals who have aspirations and dreams, but no hand-holding or no support. So we have covered about 250 individuals across 20 countries in the world in the last 3.5 years, providing them access to quality guidance. And then we do a whole lot of other stuff, which obviously I will request you to go to our website and check that out. So in my own journey of about 30 years, working in different organizations, and I was in human resources, so was responsible for hiring, retaining, developing some of the finest leaders across the world. One thing always fascinated me, which was why a certain set of leaders with great pedigree, great backgrounds, educated from some of the top universities, great experiences, stumbled in the face of adversity. When there were challenges, they could not provide a clear guidance. They could not inspire people around them. And some very ordinary humans coming from the ranks stepped up and inspired people to be at their best and really helped them to face those challenges or those adversities in a very meaningful way. So when I was envisioning Leadership at Humanity, I started to unfold what is exactly going on. Why does it happen this way? So there was one profound learning which I got, which was people connect with who you are before they get inspired by what you do for a living. People look for how connectable you are. Can you be trusted? Are you compassionate? Are you caring? Are you a good human being? And once that connection is formed, they get inspired by everything you do, whether you're a professional or a business leader or engineer, they get inspired by that. So what is really happening is leaders are struggling together today, and Steve mentioned about stress being one of the biggest pandemics. It is actually the case. Now that we work with various or different leaders across the spectrum, people are struggling to provide guidance or leadership to those who are looking up to them. So there are a couple of fundamental shifts which are taking place. Last about 8 to 10 years, the way the business is performed has fundamentally shifted. There's more ambiguity, there's more uncertainty, there's more unpredictability in the business world. And leaders are expected to provide direction and guidance when they are themselves not very clear about where they're headed. The other big shift which is happening is the new generation of folks who are coming in to the workforce or joining the workforce. Some of you probably sitting here in the room today are expecting more than just the reward or recognition or promotions. They are looking for leading a fuller life. The lines between the personal life and the professional lives are blurring. They are looking for meaning at work. They're looking for deeper connections. And they're looking for inspiration and hope, and which is missing. So leaders are struggling to step up and provide that. So all my careers across the globe, different parts of the world, different organizations, this is the struggle you see day in, day out. Leaders are expected to step up the game, be the inspirational leaders. They are great managers, great executors, but are failing to connect with people who they are leading. So today, I want to share 2 stories. Stories of inspiration, stories of hope. And these stories are about compassion and courage. And through that, I want to reinforce my point why it is important to be a good human being before you become an effective leader. So let me quickly move on to the topic of why leading with humanity is becoming more critical now than it ever was. Because of the change which is happening, the pace of change, and Steve mentioned about that, people are struggling to step up, to get into that space of leadership where it is just more than providing clear direction or even holding others accountable to deliver the outcomes. And in fact, one of my biggest learning of last 4 years working with different leaders across the spectrum is leaders who are leading with humanity, leaders who are able to find a connection with the people, leaders who are able to inspire others are able to deliver much better outcomes. They're leading a fuller life. They're inspiring others to be at their best every day, and they are creating superior outcomes for the organizations they represent. So if I take a step back and see, well, why people are struggling, why leaders are struggling to get into that space. So I go back to the time when I started my career about 35 years back. I started with a lot of dreams. I wanted to go there and make an impact. I wanted to build deeper connections. And I brought my whole self every morning to the workplace I was part of. So what you see on the top is that colorful mosaic which creates the human beings. We are happier, we like and love certain things, we don't like and don't love certain other things. We want to have positive, good working relationships. We want to be in an environment where we feel loved and feel cared for. However, as you get into the work environment, you start to see what is the currency to accelerate my growth or development in the organization. So people learn to navigate. They learn what would it take to be successful. And certain muscles or certain faculties get over-amplified at work in the work environment. So people are rewarded for making quick decisions. People are rewarded to move faster, deliver short-term outcomes. So what really happens is The world which is experiencing us is looking at a very fuzzy gray version of who we really are. And on the basis of that, they are forming the perceptions. One of my learning was that we are not the leaders we think we are. We are the leaders they or people around us who they think we are. And we may have multiple ideas in our head that this is who I am and this is how I step up and this is what is my background and what I've done. But people who are experiencing you every day do not see you that way. Your impact as a leader is compromised. Part of my programs which I run, what we do a diagnostic which we call inner circle assessment. This inner circle assessment, part of the inner circle assessment, our coaches and what we call change partners interview a set of individuals who are impacted by this human being on a regular basis. So they talk to their peers, their direct reports, managers, but also to their family members, to their friends. And then they come back with an impact assessment of how you show up every day. And I can tell you more than half of the leaders are actually surprised because there's a disconnect between what they think of themselves versus how people they truly and deeply care for experience them every day. So when you get to that point where people are experiencing that fuzzy gray version of you, leaders tend to do more of what has worked in the past. So they continue to repeat what has worked in the past, but that doesn't stick. And that's where the frustration starts to set in. The stress starts to come in, and they can't deal with it. And today, I live in the US and work with a lot of leaders, one-to-one coaching. People are struggling to sustain the impact as a leader over a longer period of time. There are burnouts, people dropping off the grid, very successful humans, did very well in the early part of the career. Late 40s, early 50s, they can't sustain the momentum going forward. And the reason is they don't know how to engage, how to inspire, and bring people along. So let me unfold it a little bit. Steve talked about the impact. There's been extraordinary focus on building skills and capabilities for a very, very long time. And I was, by the way, one of those responsible for that for a while. In my last corporate stint as a global head of talent, learning, and organization effectiveness of a large global corporation, I had about $60 million of annual budget for people development. 90% of that budget went into enhancing skills and capabilities of the leaders, of the people. So we actually trained people to do more of what they already did better. And I'm not saying that skills capabilities are not important. In fact, that's a price of entry. If you don't know what to do for the role, it's very difficult to sustain, especially in the senior leadership roles. However, the missing element is how much capacity do I have to sustain? And my capacity is an outcome of our ability to inspire others to be at their best. So as a leader, it's less about up to a certain point, it works that way, but beyond a certain point, it's less about what I do every day. It's more about how much I can inspire people around me to show up at their best every day. That's the multiplier. And when leaders are not able to convert that, when the relationships are more transactional, that doesn't work. And how can we expand or enhance our capacity? You got to show up at your best. It's very difficult to really try and fit into the expectations of different audiences we deal with as a leader. So you're dealing with a board, you're dealing with your leadership teams, you're dealing with your teams, you're dealing with this broader organization. Spotlight on the leadership. People are looking at you from across the world in the global organizations. It's very difficult that you get up every morning and say, well, today I'm going to talk in a town hall and I got to look the role and I got to inspire them. And tomorrow I'm going to be in front of the board and I got to look different and I got to look sharp and I need to have my facts in control. But reality is that's complex, that's difficult. The only person you can change is yourself. So if I decide I want to be deliberate about bringing my humanness, my innate goodness inside as a human being out and let people experience that human, and then they get impacted and inspired by the work I do or whatever I do for a living, I'm good at that, then that inspiration sticks. But if your core is weak, which over a period of time, in the previous slide, I was showing that little dusty kind of character. When my core is weak, it's like keeping a large body on very weak legs. It can't walk. It's wobbly. It stumbles. So to build sustainability in the impact, it's really critical that we are deliberate and we are conscious about nurturing and building our core. And that needs a conscious pause. So people need to take a pause, sidestep, reflect, and reset to make sure they continue to be the inspirational leaders they are. That brings me to the next part of my conversation, and I have two very inspirational stories for you. The first story is about compassion at work. Compassion has been one of the most underrated competence in the leaders. In fact, to the extent that sometimes it's misunderstood for being a weak leader. I've sat in conversations where people said, you're probably too soft, you're too caring, you can't make tough, difficult choices, which in the current business environment, leaders are expected to make. However, my learning is compassion is the most empowering competence. Compassion is the single largest contributor to loyalty at work. If people feel and experience authentic compassion, they are loyal to you. There's a lot of research which shares that or talks about that. So this story always inspires me. I've probably done it multiple times in my programs, and I want to share it with you today. This person on the screen, his name is Arne Sorenson. He was the CEO and president of Marriott Hotels between 2012 and 2021 for about 9 years. He was the first member outside the family of Marriott's who led this organization successfully to transform it completely. In 2020, early part of 2020, quarter one, at the onset of pandemic, COVID-19, a lot of leaders were struggling to pull together messages to their employees. And I can talk about myself. I was sitting with my CEO and my head of communications, trying to draft a very balanced communication to the employees. We could not share much because we didn't know where it was headed. But at the same time, we wanted to settle the anxieties. We wanted to give some hope to people, but it was a very balanced, I would say, politically correct messages which were being drafted. As you would know, that hospitality industry was at the forefront of the impact of COVID-19. The first one to get impacted. People stopped traveling. There was no business meetings happening. So Arne decided to address 400,000 employees of Marriott worldwide directly. He wanted no filters between what he wanted to say to his people, and he wanted them to hear from him what was going to happen. So take a listen.
Hello, Marriott Associates. I'm here to give you an update on the impact of coronavirus, or COVID-19, on our business and the steps we're taking to respond to it. Because of the profound impact COVID-19 is having on so many of us around the world, this is the most difficult video message we have ever pulled together. Our team was a bit concerned about using a video today because of my new bald look. Let me just say that my new look is exactly what was expected as a result of my medical treatments. I feel good, and my team and I are 100% focused on overcoming the common crisis we face. Now let's talk about that crisis, COVID-19. Let's start with the health challenge itself. Across our company, the number of COVID-19 infected associates is low, and I'm grateful for this. I want to acknowledge the associates who are dealing with it as a patient, a parent, family member, or friend, and the hundreds of Marriott colleagues who are at this minute quarantined. Our well wishes and thoughts are with all of you. In terms of our business, COVID-19 is like nothing we've ever seen before. For a company that's 92 years old, that's borne witness to the Great Depression, World War II, and many other economic and global crises, that's saying something. But here are the facts. COVID-19 is having a more severe and sudden financial impact on our business than 9/11 and the 2009 financial crisis combined. The worst quarter we had in those earlier crises saw a roughly 25% decline in hotel revenues on average across the globe. In this case, which began in Greater China in January, we quickly saw a 90% decline in our business in China. In the 2 months since, we have seen COVID-19 extend to the rest of the world. In most markets, our business is already running 75% below normal levels. The principal challenge we face is obvious. Governments all around the world are taking the steps to contain COVID-19. The restrictions on travel, gatherings of people, and required social distancing is having an immediate impact by depressing demand for our hotels. As a result, we have hotels around the world that can't operate without incurring substantial economic losses and risking permanently their ability to reopen when this gets behind us. This has caused hundreds of hotels to close or start the process of closing until such time as demand begins to return. Given these circumstances, we've been forced to take proactive steps to respond to the crisis and are putting into place business contingency plans globally. While pieces of these continent contingency plans vary, given the differences in local laws and the geographies where we operate, certain elements are universal. We've worked to take controllable costs out of the business, like suspending all non-essential travel. We have paused all new hires, with the exception of a small number of mission-critical positions. We have stopped all hotel initiatives for 2020 and have gone dark on our brand marketing and advertising during this period. Both Mr. Marriott and I will not be taking any salary for the balance of 2020, and my executive team will be taking a 50% cut in pay. Above property around the world, we are moving to shortened work weeks, and in the US, we are also putting in place temporary leaves for at least the next 60 to 90 days that will impact most associates at our headquarters and above property locations. At the property level, contingency plans vary by geography and hotel occupancy rates, but for open hotels include closing food and beverage outlets, reducing staff, and closing floors of hotels. More details about these actions and what they mean will be shared through local HR teams. If there is any good news visible today, it is the signs of early recovery in Greater China. China appears to have succeeded in reducing the spread of COVID-19 through strong counteractions. China is now bringing manufacturing back online, and we are seeing some early signs of lodging demand begin to return. If this holds, it may bode well for the course of this epidemic in other parts of the world. In 2 weeks, I will mark my 8th anniversary as CEO, a position I accepted on the heels of 2 legends in hospitality. As a leader, I've experienced so many wonderful highs and a good number of challenging lows. I can tell you that I have never had a more difficult moment than this one. There is simply nothing worse than telling highly valued associates, people who are the very heart of this company, that their roles are being impacted by events completely outside of their control. I've never been more determined to see us through than I am at this moment. While it's impossible to know how long this crisis will last, I know we as a global community will come through the other side, and that when we do, our guests will be eager to travel this beautiful world again. When that great day comes, we will be there to welcome them with the warmth and care we are known for the world over. As I close, I encourage you to please take care of yourself, your friends and family, and the community around you. I wish you good health and a sense of optimism. Together, we can And we will overcome this, and we'll thrive once again. Thank you, and be well.
All right. So, a little bit of news. Arne could not survive the health situation he was dealing with and passed away in 2021 Feb. After this particular message, the tone and the tenor of all leadership messages changed across the US. And it was heartening to see that people started to become more human when delivering the message. The other piece of trivia, how many of you know about, raise of hands, about Glassdoor? People have heard about Glassdoor? Okay, some of you have heard about it. Glassdoor is an independent agency which allows employees to go online and provide some kind of feedback on their leaders and CEOs. Highly rated for its unbiased views and allows leaders to see how they're impacting. Arne's ratings shot up after this message the next day. After the day he announced to these hundreds and thousands of people that their jobs may be impacted, they may be sent on leaves, and there is going to be a huge impact on the industry per se. People went online and voted for him as one of the finest CEOs they're working for. For year 2020, he was the number 2 rated, highest rated CEOs across the world. So what did he do in this message of about 5 or 6 minutes? And what compassionate leaders can do? One, they have a very clear and sensitive view of the situation. So there was no ambiguity. Whatever he knew, he brought it out clearly, directly to the people. Two, they, in every word they say, they foster belonging and inclusiveness. So he talked about the impact on the Mr. Marriott, his team, what they're going to do about it, and how they're going to deal with it. 3, they demonstrate actionable care, how they're going to take care of their people. And 4, they leave on a message of inspiration and hope. So my own learning of over 30 years in the corporate world and last 4 years working with some of the senior leaders across the spectrum, that compassion, if it is authentic, if it is brought out in the right way, can actually empower you to make the toughest decisions, and people still trust you and they walk with you, and you make a bigger impact as a leader. With that, I'm going to transition to my next story. It's very close to my heart. And this story is about this girl called Dechan Dolma. She lives in a remote village in the Himalayas in Ladakh region of India. And she's now part of my team. So when I started Leadership at Humanity in 2021, I was looking for locations where I could create a pause to take the leaders and have the kind of conversations, reflective conversations I wanted to have. Ladakh was on the top of my list. So I was looking for someone who could help me on the ground, coordinate and take care of setting up the meeting room, making sure, the notepads are there and the room is set up properly. So there's someone very close to me, I trust her judgment, reached out to me and said, I have someone in mind, you should talk to her. So I spoke to Dechan. And it was a long conversation. Out of probably 1 hour we spent, almost 55 minutes I was talking. 5 minutes I heard her say very few words. Very quiet, very shy, very underconfident. I decided to bring her on board, and she started helping me setting up the room before my training program. So making sure everything was in place, had her own checklist. She was ticking the boxes, making sure program is set up for success. One day she said, can I sit through in the program? I said, why not? So these are very senior leaders, almost direct reports to the CEOs of the companies in the room, about 12, 15 of them. And Dechan sat quietly with her notebook, copiously taking notes of everything which was being said or discussed in that meeting room. Had no exposure or experience working in a corporate world. A lot of the words which were being discussed or said probably didn't even make sense, but she was making notes. And then one day I saw her practicing, trying to be more confident, to say things and connect with people. So over lunch breaks and dinner breaks, she would look out for different participants and sit with them and have a conversation. And then I mentioned we run a mentoring program, global mentoring program. One day she came and said, Atul, can I be a mentee in the program? I said, why not? So I made sure that she gets a very good mentor. And she started being part of the mentoring program. Now, Dechan is actually leading that mentoring program or co-leading it with some other colleagues globally. She screens and interviews mentees across the world. And she's actually taking portions of the program as a facilitator. She has no filters. She never worked in the corporate. She has no idea or apprehensions that I'm talking to a very senior person in the corporate world. She just connects at a human level. This is Dechan's story.
Hi, I am Dechan and I'm a part of LEH team. I was a mentee in LEH Open Mentoring Program last year. I want to share how LEH mentoring has really changed things for me. When I started this journey, my aim, my goals were to increase my confidence and improve my communication skills. I had a tough time believing in myself and felt anxious when sharing my thoughts. I doubted myself even when I did well and struggled with saying no. So during this journey, my mentor, guided me in overcoming my self doubt and believing in myself. And I learned the importance of self analysis and having the courage to move forward, even in the face of mistakes. So these experiences, significantly contributed to building my confidence. And also with the ALH team, I learned that we are all imperfect and human. So it was not always easy for me. I had tough time when I got nervous, uh, forgot what to say, hesitated to ask questions, and felt unsure about myself. I still have those moments, but I like learned that like dealing with these challenges is how we grow. So I just want to say, if there are people facing challenges like me, then I just want to say to them that just step out of your comfort zone and make mistakes, because continuous what I feel is continuous self-improvement is important. And if you are like interested in having a mentor, then I encourage you to join our free LEH open mentoring program. Thank you.
So Dechan's story is that of challenging your own self-limiting beliefs, having the courage to step out of your comfort zone and connecting with people at a human level. And that's where the difference gets made. So I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts. One, it's really important to be a good human being before you become an effective leader. Once you decide to step out and become that great human you are, it can change the game for you, for the organizations you lead, and for the people you represent forever. Thank you very much.
Atul, thank you. Thank you very much indeed. So we've got some questions for you, okay, that we've put together and they've been fielded from earlier. Now, you've talked about leadership et humanité, okay. Give us, what does it mean to lead with humanity in today's world? You've talked about it in different ways, but encapsulate what is the core essence of that?
So, Israel, for me, it is being who you are and showing up like that in every moment. Not becoming who you are not, which is too much of stress and too much of pressure. One of my biggest learning in my own life journey has been that people accept you with your imperfections when they see that you're genuine and you're authentic. So holding back, trying to navigate, trying to figure out what will help you to grow faster, make choices, bring people along, almost never works. It puts more stress, makes life more difficult.
Thank you. How do you help executives navigate the high pressure in environments? And again, coming from your paradigm and your ethos in leadership, how do you come in? What is the difference in your own intervention style in helping these executives in their high pressure environments?
Well said. So, two very different scenarios I experienced. A lot of my programs, by the way, are on the basis of what I actually saw. So I said I'm a practitioner and a student. There are teams, Israel, which lift you up when you're down. So there are those moments when you feel you're out of control. There are those moments when you feel a lot is expected and you can't step up. But if people believe in you, they trust in you, and you're vulnerable and you're open and you're authentic, you will not even know who's coming to lift you up. And on the contrary, I've also seen happening when leaders are dealt or faced with very difficult choices, but they have no connection with their teams. My relationship is very transactional. Teams pull you down. So the choice is, do I build a human-to-human connection with my people so that when I'm down, I have people to lift me up?
Very nice, human connection. You've shared with us two amazing transformative stories. What role do you feel reflection, because we've talked about pause, what role do you feel reflection plays in leadership development today?
Well, I think it's a very important question. I think people are in a race. If we want to change, we got to take a sidestep and pause. And we need to leverage that interlude, that interval, that pause to reflect and reset. What's happening is, I talk to a lot of executives, they tell me, I'm taking a break with my family for 2 weeks. I want to recharge, refresh, and come back. And I was, by the way, one of those. The reality is you go there, you're on the calls, you're on your emails, you are 24/7 connected, mentally, emotionally, with the work. You have no time to reflect. So your question on reflection, how important it is absolutely critical. It's like you can't change a wheel of a car which is running. You got to stop and then use that time to reflect. That's what we do, by the way, in my programs, leadership journeys. We take people to create that pause and help them to reflect and see what needs to change and come back with a plan to reset. And when they reset, we handhold them through their reintegration back into the businesses. Unless you do that, the change is very difficult.
It's beautiful. Thank you. So we're talking about reflect. We're talking about pausing. For you, in all the experience that you've had, Atul, what is the fundamental concern or fear that's driving this systemic behavior around the globe when it comes to leadership? What's driving this?
So I think there is a narrative which has been set up, Israel, over the years, that there's a certain way you can succeed in the organizations. People follow that narrative. There's a fear of challenging that narrative. I sometimes say in my conversations and dialogues and programs that we need to make it cool to be a good human being, to be an effective leader. So I think that narrative needs to be reset. And I'll tell you, the organizations I'm working with today, we do some longitudinal assessment with them. The business outcomes, which is the fear that, if I sidestep and I change, what would it mean for the outcomes? Actually, outcomes become a byproduct of who you are. So when I show up in a certain way, and I can inspire people who work around me to be at their best every morning, it can be a game changer for the organization. The outcomes almost happen automatically.
Thank you, Atul. And one more. For those in the audience that are starting their own corporate careers,
Yes.
on the very, very first step out of uni, getting ready to jump in, what's the message you have for them?
Perfect. It's a great way to close my conversation, Israel. So my message is you do not have to endure through a difficult career to make an impact or reach a point where you think you can make an impact. You can make an impact now. You can lead a fuller life. You can have a bigger impact. You can create better outcomes by being a good human being. So never compromise as you enter into the work environment. Probably there are not enough good role models. Make sure you become the role model for the generations which will follow you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Atul Khosla.
Thank you very much.